Hey coffee friends, welcome to Painting with Coffee. On today's episode, I'm going to be painting a cat with coffee. Oh yeah, I ain't kidding ya. So, grab your coffee, sit back, relax, or join along and I'll show you how. So, if you're nervous, we can do it. Coffee says so. So, let's do this. I've been looking forward to painting Gypsy the cat for quite some time. My friend requested an 8x10, so I'm setting it out here. I recommend making the outline of the tape a little larger than an 8x10 so you have some excess painted area to cut off, just in case the frame was created a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. It's always good to have a little extra. So get that laid out and then we'll get started painting a cat with coffee. I did a light sketch of Gypsy so that it was easily erased and painted over without noticing harsh outlines. I got my bowl set up to brew our coffee. I put different levels of coffee in each one of them so that you could have different values. It's kind of hard to tell until you put the hot water in, stir it around and try it out on the paper, but I liked what I was doing so far. Gave them a little stir and then I tested them out. After doing this, I realized that the bottom right and the top left had very similar values, so I decided I'd make the top left just a little bit lighter so we would have 4 completely different colors to work with. Give it a little stir and perfect. This is a great color. Nailed it. Let's get started. Since this is watercolor and the cat was white, the majority of it's white, you always want to do the lightest first so you can tell the range of color you need to do. So I got the lightest coffee color, almost white, and I painted that around everywhere. And then I knew that I could take darker colors and fill in the shadows later, but it'd be really difficult if I did the darker shadows first and then tried to make it lighter, because watercolor really doesn't go backwards, which is unfortunate, but it's the name of the game, and that's why I kind of enjoy it so much. You just never know, so you really have to plan and also go with the flow at the same time. The next part is adding the first layer of shadows. So for these, you want them kind of subtle, so you can do it while the cat's still wet. So I got a little bit of a darker color and I went around the outside, anywhere there were shadows, looking at the reference photo, and just under the hand, just it blends in because it's wet. It all just kind of moves together and it makes it look really nice. I like it a lot. And this is a perfect time to paint his backside and let that dry. So he's kind of laying and that goes to the side of him. Time to paint the cat's head. So we pick our darkest brew and then we just start painting, and we're gonna start layering it up. So get your dark layer down right there. It's looking pretty good, and then we'll just start spreading it around. And don't be too concerned if the paper warps. There's gonna be some puddles of darker color, but you can always move those around with your paintbrush. And just be careful when you carry it to the cat's head that it doesn't drip somewhere else on the canvas. That is never a good thing. And just do small brush strokes. It'll look like fur a little bit. Be really careful when you go around the eyes. You don't want them to bleed into the eye and ruin the white area that we're going to use later. It's really hard to get it out, especially because coffee stains and it's a very dark color in general. Then we'll take the third darkest color and we'll color in the ears. We'll make those like a nice warm brown. And we'll make sure the head color is a lot darker. But for the ears, just color that in. And don't worry if it bleeds too much, we can always touch it up later. And if you're new to this channel, bleed means that the colors run into each other. That's what it stands for. So they kind of bleed into each other. It's just when 2 colors are really wet and you don't let them dry and they just kind of run. But sometimes you want that effect and sometimes you don't. When you want 2 different colors next to each other and you want it to be significant that they don't run, then you want to be really careful and make sure they're dry. And the term is bleed, and make sure they don't bleed. Gosh, I was really loving Gypsy's coloring. Something you don't really completely realize until you're painting her, but she's really cute. The dark coffee color kept puddling up. It was kind of weird. I guess it was because the paper was so wet, it was warping and it was making puddles. But as it was drying, I made sure I kept moving that dark area so that it didn't have like a really dark defined area in the center. But just something to keep an eye on if your paper is warping. Not a big deal, but I just want to make sure I kept it moving. And this coffee color worked perfectly for the cat's eyelids. It was just such a dark mascara-like color. I then added the third darkest coffee color to the side of the paper so that it was close to reach. And this is when we're going to start adding the shadows. So you really want to look at your reference photo and look at the way the fur moves, what direction it goes, what direction, the wrinkles in the cat are going. So some go straight and then some comes up around the chest area. But just take your time and do little patches at a time, little brush strokes, and it really helps for animals with fur. It'll make it look more realistic. And right there, when I have too much coffee blotted down, you can just dry your paintbrush off and then pull some coffee paint off of that spot so that you make it a little bit lighter. And I haven't painted too many animals before, so I was taking my time doing small brush strokes, and I knew that the coffee does dry a little bit lighter than when you're painting it. So if it looks dark while you're painting, just remember it'll dry a little lighter, not to panic. And just really pay attention to the reference photo, whether, where the shadows are, the fur. Fur gets all over the place sometimes. It's really not a consistent object to illustrate. Not to mention, fur gets all over the place in general. Every time I go to my friends' houses with cats, I've got fur all over me. But I enjoy cats, so I'm not complaining. There, I just tried to paint the mouth. I didn't really like the look of it, so I ended up smudging it out, and I used my finger a little bit to rub it in. I decided I would start with the nose first and see how I like that, and then go down from there. I then painted in the bridge of the nose. This was really cool because it kind of leads the eye distance to the nose and shows some depth. It really helps the painting. Let's make it a little more realistic looking. This next part I kind of figured out in the painting itself. It wasn't planned, but I got a dry paintbrush and I went to where the paint was almost dry on the dark area, and I just kind of smudged and scraped it down into the light area so that it just kind of blended. And the way cat's fur is, it's not, light and dark. There are parts where it mix and matches in between. So it was neat. The dry brush technique really worked well for this. And then when it dried, it looked even better. But made it look like it wasn't two pieces and it was all, one cat, not a cat with a helmet, if you will. But yeah, try the dry brush technique and tell me what you think. Time to bring your steady hand. So we touched up the nostrils to the cat and then worked my way down to the mouth. A few dots to where the whiskers are going to go, just to get an idea, and then we'll get back to that. And then I decided I didn't like that dark spot up on the cat's head, so I got a wet paintbrush with the darkest coffee, and I decided I would move that all around. And while you're at it up there, you can take the dark coffee and draw little hairs that are coming out of the ears. Time to paint the whiskers. Using the darkest color coffee and your tiniest brush, just follow the flow of what the whiskers look like in the photo. There's no right way to do it, but you definitely don't want to do the wrong way or the wrong direction of the way that cat's whiskers may flow. So just look at the photo and then have fun with it. Time to paint the pupils. It's pretty easy. You're just going to color in what you've already drawn, but be careful and make sure that you leave the white dot, because that always helps with showing reflection. Time to paint the background. I decided to do a light turquoise color, so I made it really watered out, and then I painted it to see what it would look like. Next, we're going to paint the whole background with clean, clear water, and this allows, when you're doing backgrounds, for it to spread really easily without drying on you too quickly. So we're going to do that, and then we'll add color, and you can do whatever color you want. It's going to look good regardless. I just recommend maybe doing a lighter background so that the cat stands out, since it is the darker object. The final piece to this painting, the cat is sitting on a bamboo shelf. So that's what it's holding. So we're going to paint the whole thing green, and then we'll go from there with dividing it into lighter and darker. So once it's green, the top half will have a little bit of yellow. That's a little bit of the lighter bamboo reflecting, and the bottom will be a little darker. And then after that's done, we'll put the rings in the side of the bamboo, and that'll be like a kind of like a brownish, like a dark green. But you don't want to make it pop out too much, because you don't want it to take away from the cat. So this is just like a subtle extra piece to this painting. And if you don't want to do a piece of bamboo, you could do like have the cat looking over a stairwell, have the cat on a kitchen table looking down. There's a lot of fun things you can do with it. I just stuck to the original reference photo where it was laying on a bamboo shelf. This was looking perfect. Time to sign it. Be very careful when you're pulling the tape off, and make sure everything's away from your painting. Watch right here. Flip. Yep. Water went everywhere, all over the table, and luckily not on this painting. And we finished. Thank you for joining. It turned out awesome. I really enjoyed it. If you like cats or you enjoyed this painting, hit the like button. Subscribe for more if you want to see more coffee paintings, and comment down below and tell me what your cat's name is. I would love to hear. Cheers, and I hope you have a great coffee, whether it's today, tomorrow, or right now. Let's get roasted.